Hello, this is Prophet Kelvin N. Broadus once again for UGFE Ministries. And I just want to take a couple moments to share with you some inspiration on the word that was placed on my heart from the Lord. And it is basically called, "You Are Too Great to Fail." If you watch the news, if you watch what has been going on, then you will see that over the past couple of years we have gone through a major economic challenge in this country of the United States. There have been bailouts, there has been a recession, there have been all types of issues that have occurred. Now, when the recession was at its peak, you had these programs that the government was issuing called bailouts. You would hear the government actually say that certain companies, these were primarily companies that were based around the automotive industry and banks, they said that these companies were too big to fail. That was the status. That was the reason for the for the government rather, deciding to spend billions and billions of dollars to these multi-billion dollar companies in the first place. Keep that in mind. These were already multi-million, multi-billion dollar corporations that were receiving this money. They still were in operation. They still were making their own money. They still were bringing in income. They still were paying their CEOs six figures or higher every year. So they still were operating at these maximum levels, but there was fear that with these particular companies that they would begin to lose so much money that they would not be able to pay their average workers and so forth. Now, my first problem with that, of course, is that you could have taken some of that money away from your CEOs, because your CEOs are making enough money to feed about 5 different families at one time. But instead of taking that money away, you were still looking for a handout for the government. And if you had just restructured your money and taken some of that money away from those people who are already being paid so much in the first place, then you could have made do a little bit better anyway. And now our government is in a situation where we are having to have discussions about raising the debt ceiling, and yet and still you don't see these companies coming to bail out the United States government. So it's kind of hypocritical. It looks pretty foolish, to be honest, that we spent so much effort from a governmental standpoint to bail out companies, but now we're in trouble. The government is in trouble, and these companies are not taking any effort to bail out the government. But that's a whole different issue. The point that is to be made is the fact that the world is going to take care of the world. We still, even though we have been in recession, we have had people who are still spending their money on these music CDs, on these movies, on sporting events. So we're still making sure that our sports athletes, who are paid millions and millions a year, are able to continue playing their game and getting paid millions and millions a year, where our own families are struggling to get from one paycheck to the other paycheck. So the priorities are all messed up in this circumstance, because instead of looking out for the people who really need it, Jesus Christ said that the poor will be with you always. So rather than take care of the poor and taking care of our own families the way we need to be doing, we are spending that time making sure that we continue to support our celebrities, our athletes, our sources of entertainment, our own guilty pleasures, and so forth. And I'm not saying never do anything for yourself. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that we must learn to prioritize, and prioritizing what we do is part of the reasons that, or part of the ways that God has established for us to be too great to fail. See, one thing that we need to realize is that the government is not going to come in and bail us out. We can even look at programs like welfare and other systems, and those programs are put in place supposedly to assist, but they're also put in place to keep you in the system, to keep you needing them. They're not going to bail you out. But one thing that we have to realize, and listen to the prophet, but one thing you have to realize is that God has already put a bailout system in place. And it's a system. It's not a quick fix. If you look at our government, we're always looking for a quick fix to something that really doesn't resolve the issue down to the root cause, but it really just gives a temporary fix, like wrapping a leaking hose in your car engine with tape. It doesn't really fix the situation, doesn't really solve it, it doesn't fix the root cause of it, but it and sometimes doesn't even completely give a valid or decent long, even a decent short time solution. It's just something to cover it up, just putting a band-aid over it really quickly. But God has given us a full, true system, because God says you're too important to fail. You are too valuable to fail. You who are listening to this right now, you are too valuable to fail. And God doesn't want you to fail. God doesn't want any of his children to fail. But we got to understand that his system is not a quick fix. It's not something that's going to get us all hyped up, but it's a system that's based around discipline and consistency, which is going to keep you from ever entering a point of failure to begin with. And if you've already reached that point, then you can still work your way out of it. You can still work your way out of it. God's plan covers everything from health to finances to any other area that we would need to remain living that life more abundantly that Jesus came to give us. And the first areas of that include sin. Stay out of trouble. Keep your life going well. Stay positive. Stay on the righteous side of things. Don't go to a life of crime. Don't go to a life of things that would endanger you or that would harm you. And if God says that it's sin, it will harm you. So first thing is work on living that life that he prescribed, that life of righteousness. Righteousness is going to pay for itself in general. Secondly, stewardship. Financial stewardship. God teaches us in his word to be financially responsible. Not to just waste money on anything, on foolishness, but to spend it and invest it wisely. He does teach us to invest, not just to save it or to hide it, because even when he gave the principles, even when Jesus gave the parable of the talents, the person that decided to hide their money, to hide their talents of silver, to hide it was called wicked. No, but the persons who went out and invested and multiplied their income, God called those good and faithful servants. So even under that principle, he tells us to take our money and to invest it wisely. Also, another principle that he teaches us is of sowing and reaping. He says from the beginning to the end, there will always be sowing and reaping. Sow your talent, sow your skills, sow your finances. And God has told us and given us a promise, has even given us a promise that if you sow, you shall reap, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. That if you sow, he's going to increase you. As you sow, he says that if you give unto a prophet, you get a prophet's reward. So you're going to be blessed over and over and over again. God tells us is that if you sow into his work, he says that he will continue to supply seed to the sower, that he will increase the seed to the sower. So constantly we must learn to get this concept. I guarantee you one thing, that if you look over your life and you look in those winters, there will always be seasons: summers, winters, falls, and springs. And if you look at those winter seasons, those dry seasons in your life, you will find that if you have been sowing in the prior season when everything was good, then God is going to take care of you when it gets drier. But you will also find that if you end up in a situation where it is really hard, if you look back to the prior season when things were good, then you will see a gap in your sowing. You must learn to sow. God says that through the prophet you will gain prosperity. So sow your seeds. Let's look at health. Look at health issues. God wants you to prosper health-wise. And that's why in the book of Leviticus, he gave us dietary guidelines. No, you don't have to follow those guidelines. You don't have to follow those guidelines. You can eat as much pork as you want to eat. You can eat as much shellfish as you want to eat. You can eat as much scavenger food as you want to eat. You can eat a buzzard if you want to. But God has given us the prescription. God has told us what was healthy and what is not healthy, not for our sake to be limited. Like I say, you can do it if you want to. You're not going to go to hell for eating pig. That's not going to happen. It used to be a point where it was the law, and now you're under grace and you can eat whatever you want to eat. However, if you follow those wonderful principles that he has prescribed, then you will find that your health is far greater. If you follow those principles that he has laid down, you will find that your health is blessed. Your health is prospering just the same. And all the other prescriptions that he has put in his holy word, if you follow those guidelines, you will not fail. Your health will not fail if you eat according to his guidelines. Your finances will not fail if you operate in the good stewardship that he has prescribed and you sow your seeds as he prescribed. Your finances will not fail. And also, you have to understand that God has given everybody a specific purpose. That's part of the reason why even going to a prophet, because the prophet is going to guide you into understanding and developing your purpose. Because once you begin to operate in your purpose, your gift will make room for you. That's also said in the scriptures. Your gift will make room for you. So by seeking that knowledge of understanding your gift will make room for you as is. So therefore, that even blesses you financially. So ultimately, get tied in with the word. Get tied in with the word. Read the scriptures and start following those precepts. Start following those guidelines. Start following those instructions that are found within it. And you will never fail. You will never fail. Now, I don't want to leave this message without giving you an opportunity to get connected. So contact me. Contact the prophet, Kelvin Broadus, at UGFE.org. You can also reach me at churchugfe.freeservice.com. It's the same website. Contact me. I want to get you connected. I want to get the prophetic word into your life. I want to help you to find your gift so that it can make room for you. I want to help you to get connected to those blessings where it says sow. I want to allow you to be able to sow into good work, into good soil, so that you can reap, but reap pressed down, shaken together, running over, so that you can be blessed beyond your expectations. So if you want to get connected, you can email me at church@ugfe.org or ugfeministries@gmail.com. You can find me online at www.ugfe.org or churchugfe.freeservice.com. And you can also visit my Facebook page, the Ministries Facebook page, at facebook.com/UGFE Ministries. It's time for you to overcome this stage in your life. It's time for you to get connected to God's divine plan for you. And it's time for you to live and not die. It's time for you to succeed and not fail, because you, my friend, are too great to fail. The government bailed out its people. The world bails out itself. And when you're living in the world system, you will continue to bail out the world. But it's time for you to get divinely connected and be bailed out by God's divine prescription. You are too great to fail. This has been Prophet Kelvin N. Broadus with UGFE Ministries. Peace and be blessed.